Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with one of the most exciting unboxing videos of the year, in my opinion. This is very exciting to me because this is a production knife of Phillipe Jourget. If you go back on my channel, I've done a couple of videos on Phillipe Jourget's work, including a recent video on this FIF23. This is one of the most perfect knives I've ever experienced in my life. If you go way back on my channel, about a year ago, I did a review of the custom FIF23, the big brother to this knife. And now, Custom Knife Factory, our friends over in Russia, have just released a production version of the custom FIF23. In true Custom Knife Factory fashion, they send it in this awesome plush case right here, wrapped up in a microfiber towel before we get to the knife itself. It also comes with a bunch of replacement hardware. I wanted to go ahead and say thank you very much to Mike Culligan over at Custom Knife Factory for sending this to me early. I saw that they were releasing this at the Blade Show, and I begged him if I could possibly get one. And he was able to send this knife a little bit early so that we could make a video prior to the Blade Show. So, without much further ado, let's go ahead and bring out the very beautiful FIF23 by Custom Knife Factory. What I'm going to do is bring out the microfiber cloth because this knife features some zirconium bolsters that are absolute fingerprint magnets. What I'm going to go ahead and do is show you the size difference here between the FIF23 and the FIF20. This being a full 4 inches of blade right here, this one being a 3.5 inch model. So have no illusions that this is a very large knife. In true Custom Knife Factory fashion, it's a giant knife. I'm pretty sure Mike loves the big knives. So while we are on the subject, let's go ahead and get some vital signs on this big guy right here. If I get this lined up very well, you're looking at exactly 4 inches of blade, 9.25 inches in overall length. That means you're getting about 105 millimeters of blade length with about 235 millimeters of overall length. You have a handle length coming in at 5.1 inches right there with a grip area of about 5 inches. That translates into 130 millimeters of handle length with about 125 millimeters of grip area right there. Now, the one spec that people have been a little bit worried about is the weight on this guy. Due to the zirconium accents, it certainly increases the weight a tremendous amount to 6.52 ounces on this particular model. So well over the 1-to-1 ratio that I'm looking for, despite some efforts to save weight along the way. And we'll get into that as we do this, as we break this knife down anatomically. But before we do that, I'm going to bring out another couple of knives for a size comparison. Like I mentioned, this is a very large knife, so I'm going to bring out the Spyderco Paramilitary 2, which is absolutely dwarfed by this knife. The only other knife that I have that's going to come even close to this is the Spyderco Subvert, which itself is an absolutely massive knife with an over 4-inch blade right there. Some other good size references might be the Koenig Knives Arius right here. Let me bring out, how about the Spyderco Paisan? I think if you are looking at getting a high-end knife right now, you might be considering between these two knives. This knife in this trim is going to be costing you around $590. With the plain CF, I believe it's somewhere in the $525 range, which is exactly what this knife costs, $525. And so you're seeing here that they're both rather large knives, but the FIF is considerably larger. So let's go ahead and break this knife down anatomically. Up front is my favorite part of the knife, and that is this blade. I absolutely adore the blade on the FIF because it's a classic drop point style blade with a very tall flat grind. And this one just happens to be done in M390. This automatically gets a leg up over the custom models because Philippe actually only works in CPM 154 for the most part. And so to get M390 on a blade might be a mild increase. Now, I'm not saying that CPM 154 is a bad steel, but M390 is arguably a slightly better steel, and so it's exciting to see that on here. Custom Knife Factory, being an excellent manufacturer, is known to have excellent heat treats on their steels, and so I have absolute faith that this is one of the best blades that you can get out there. Take a look at how thinly ground it is down here at the heel of the blade, absolutely thin behind the edge. I'll go ahead and bust out my calipers so we can actually have a legitimate semi-scientific measurement going on right here. Behind the edge, ooh, we're looking at 0.22. That's thinner than paramilitary, the paramilitary 2, which comes in somewhere around 0.24. This is actually measuring, let's see, right there, maybe even less. This is not an exact science, but this is very thin behind the edge out here. Maybe 0.17 even behind the edge. So actually much thinner even than the paramilitary series. Did I give you the blade stock measurement? Perhaps I did that earlier. At 159 thousandths, it's about standard 0.16 blade stock right there. And the handle thickness is coming in at 0.68, give or take. So a thick handle and a thick blade and a long blade. So we're looking at a very big knife right here. But absolutely incredible blade. Very nice sharpening choil, sharpened all the way back to the heel of the blade. Came incredibly sharp from the factory. Very nice micro bevel that they put on here. Not a very tall edge bevel. That says to me that this knife is ground very thin. If a company can put a very thin bevel on a knife, that generally means good things, as opposed to, say, the Spyderco Paisan that came with a very thick grind and a very tall edge bevel, which you can see from 100 miles away. This one has a very sleek, very subtle edge bevel that you almost can't even see. Very, very nicely done, and it absolutely shows in its cutting performance. Very nice top swedge right here, evenly ground. It looks very uniform from side to side. Beautifully, beautifully done. The only extra logo you're going to see on here is the Custom Knife Factory logo, which is tastefully inserted into the opposite side of the Phillipe Jourget logo, which I mentioned in those videos is a very subtle and very nice PJ triangular logo right here. Moving back to the pivot, this is running on ceramic bearings caged in phosphor bronze washers. Very, very nicely done. This has custom titanium hardware right here on the inside, and it has a faux pivot collar. This is milled into the area around the pivot in that zirconium, and that is characteristic of his knives. If you'll take a look on the custom version right here, it's the same, sort of a faux polished pivot collar. I honestly like the look. It's very clean. It's one less piece you have to worry about, and it stylizes the pivot, even though it's otherwise rather simple. The detent on this knife is heavenly. I mentioned in the FIF23 video that the detent was a little bit too strong, and detents in front flipper knives are a tricky thing. Sometimes they're too light and sometimes they're too strong. They dialed this detent in perfectly. It absolutely fires out with authority, and it's not too hard to do. I found myself slipping off of the custom versions quite a number of times on this sharp flipper tab and hurting my finger because the detent was so strong. I will not say this is not a light detent by any means. I can't shake the blade out. However, it's light enough that it's easier to open. The action is superb. In true Custom Knife Factory fashion, this knife absolutely flies out of the handle, and as you can see, guillotine drops shut and even bounces off the detent that very first time. So really, really an incredible action on this knife. Absolutely well done. I hesitate to say it's better than the custom, but it's bordering on that. It really is, guys. Very, very nicely done. Let's go ahead and take a look at this handle. Absolutely a beautiful thing. Excuse me for the cough. I think I'm coming down with a cold right now. So what I'm going to do is wipe off the bolsters so we can get a very nice look at this beautiful handle. Take a look at that zirconium bolster. It's going to throw my camera off because it's so reflective. Fully polished zirconium, dark finished, beautifully done bolsters. Very nice contrast to that bronzed hardware. Here you can see this model is done with marbled carbon fiber. They offer this in a marbled carbon fiber as well as a plain twill carbon fiber. The marbled version is going to be maybe more of a limited run. They currently have it up for pre-order on their website. I don't know how many of these they're going to have. This was part of a Blade Show batch that was sent over to me, so I'm very humbled that I was able to get my hands on this. I know that this is going to be the more desirable of the two models just because this marbled carbon fiber looks fantastic on this otherwise dark frame right here. Speaking of the frame, this is a liner lock knife. As you can see, it is hidden away right there. The custom I had, but I believe it was a bolster lock. It might have been a liner lock. I'll need to go back and look at that. What you'll see that's also a difference from the custom is that there is a steel lock bar insert. Very, very nicely done. Happy to see that. Very happy to see that, as a matter of fact. Very excellent early lockup right there. Very super accurate right here. Oh, well, it's coming off center probably because I have been flipping it so much. This is a brand new knife. I literally just opened that. We're going to find out how big this pivot is right here live in the video. I'm going to guess that it's a T15 based on how big it is. It's not. It's going to be a T10. And so I'm going to get that right here. We're going to tighten this up a little bit. Certainly brand new knife. Oh yeah, I can feel that it's a little bit loose. So tighten it down. Right back on center. Very nicely done. Action unaffected. Still incredibly smooth. Very, very nice. Dead center right there. Put some Loctite in there. Taking a look at the back here, it has a polished zirconium back spacer that goes about half length. Super nicely done. Also matches the bolsters for a nice look. This has bronze, I believe this has bronze anodized titanium liners. The bronzing is very subtle, and when you get your finger oils on it, it sort of darkens it up a little bit. But when you clean all this off, you can kind of tell a little bit more, including the clip, that it's a bit of a bronze color. And it matches well with the bronze pivot accents, and it's just very subtle. It looks very nice combined with the otherwise dark handle, and this looks very, very handsome. Just a very good looking knife. Now, what do I think of this knife? First impressions, I think this thing is freaking amazing. Amazing. This is my favorite collaborative knife of the year in terms of a knife maker working with a production knife company. I have not been as excited for a knife in a very long time because Phillipe Jourget is one of those makers that makes these sort of unicorn grails for me. He's someone that I'm actively seeking out right now. I would love to get one of his custom knives, but this is just about as good and maybe in some ways better. It's disappointing when a production company comes out with a knife that's not exactly as good as the custom versions, Spyderco. However, some companies like Riot and now Custom Knife Factory make certain knives that may be just as good and maybe arguably slightly preferable in some ways to the full customs. Now, this is not going to detract in any way from the custom knife market of Phillipe Jourget. He still makes some of the finest custom folding knives in the world, and this is not a replacement for a custom knife. This was made on a machine, by a machine, on a production line, by a number of people. This was made by one guy by hand. That does not replace it. I don't like it when people think that production knives are going to devalue the custom market on knives like this. As a matter of fact, I believe that when you release knives like this, it only bolsters the custom knife market because now more people are exposed to how awesome these knives are and they go out seeking the customs. I believe that happened to Peter Rosenti. I believe that it's happened to other custom makers as well. So I think that Custom Knife Factory has done a beautiful job of making this knife. They have really done good by Phillipe Jourget, and they've made a knife that he should be proud of. This is every bit as good as the custom, and it is only $590 in its current trim, which is about half or a little bit less than half of the table price for one of his custom knives. So you have to put these kinds of knives in a relative value sort of picture. I forgot to mention also this knife has some extensive internal milling. Let me see if I can get a light and shine some light on the subject. Perhaps you can see as I shine this and move it back and forth some significant internal milling on both sides that is absent actually in the custom version. Again, things that are slight advantages of this production knife over the custom. So it's always curious to me to see knives like this come out and to make sure that they're good. And this is good, guys. This is more than good. This is the best production collaboration knife that I've seen this year by any production company, and it's beautifully executed. Really, guys, you should go and check this out. Head over to From Russia with Knives is maybe their website. I'll leave a link down below. They may have their own website as well to check out where you can buy these knives. I'll make sure to provide some information. Check out Phillipe Jourget as a custom maker. He's on Instagram at Phillipe Jourget. Go ahead and click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel here if you like what you see. And then follow me on Instagram at Dr. Frunkey. And if you want to become a supporter of my channel, you can head over to patreon.com/Dr. Frunkey, where you can get early access to videos and my knife sales. So thank you guys so much for watching. Leave some comments down below. And as always, this is Dr. Frunkey saying, take care.